This is a 2016 Hyundai Elantra. This car is going to have some AC work done. We're going to replace the condenser, we're going to replace the expansion valve, and we're also going to replace the AC compressor. Why are we doing all this work? The AC system is not leaking, however, it has stopped cooling effectively. It is no longer cooling effectively. So with the AC on high, the temperature is not dropping into the range where we would like to see it. And also, if we check it with the gauges on the manifold, we see that the pressure on the high side is not getting high enough, and the pressure on the low side is not going low enough. So these two issues could be due to a fault in the compressor, or they could be due to a fault in the expansion valve. So rather than mess with it, we're just going to replace both. And why replace the condenser? Well, when doing work on the AC, it's best to replace the AC accumulator or filter, and this is built into the condenser. From experience, we know that it's impossible to remove the filter from most condensers in order to replace it. So we just go ahead and replace the whole condenser. Replacing the AC condenser, the first step is remove the bumper. So to remove the bumper, you remove the undercovers from under the car. Then there's two screws that stick up at either corner of the bumper. Then you have some plastic clips that go in these holes at the top of the bumper, and they fit in to this cross member here. And once you do all that, the bumper pops right off. Obviously, we want to recover the refrigerant, and this here is my budget refrigerant recovery setup. This condenser is just clipped in to the front of the radiator. It has two clips on either side, one top, one bottom, and same thing on this side here. Two clips, one top and one down bottom that you can't see. So it can be unclipped, but however, in order to unclip it, you have to move this cross member up. You see the cross member fits down onto these mounting holes right here. So I pulled it up a couple of inches like that. But in order to do that, you have to first take the headlights and move the headlights forward so that this cross member can clear the mounting points from the headlight that go on top of the cross member. And before I forget, the condenser has these air dams on either side. They're mounted relatively in this position, kind of right here, but behind this bar. And with just a little bit creative bending and angling, you can pull this down through the bottom behind the crash bar. Okay, and then to reinstall it, you want to reinstall it from underneath. And you see here where the creative bending comes in is that 90-degree piece. You just have to bend it at the same time as you slide it behind the crash bar. Here is the new condenser. It is a pretty good match to the old condenser. Now the difference is the new condenser did not come with this foam insulation that is attached on the top and on the back of the old one. And so this foam cannot really be removed from the old condenser. We'll have to replace it with new foam from the auto parts store. This is some adhesive back foam that I have in the shop, and it's not exactly the same as the original foam, but it will do the job. I'm gonna include a link to this condenser in the video description. It's an aftermarket condenser, very affordable price. Here we go. I've put tape on the top and on both back sides, adhesive foam tape, so the condenser is ready to go back in. And when you install the condenser, make sure you push it all the way down into its plastic clips, both on the top and on the bottom down there. And this is for both sides. When you reinstall the plastic air dam, which I told you, you slide it in through the bottom, use a piece of cardboard as a shield. There we are, both air dams, both sides are back in place. All they need to do is to be bolted back into the sides, and not a scratch on the new condenser. Everything is back in, and you can see how it all fits back together. The headlight goes on top of the cross member. The bolts for the cross member are behind the air dam here. The air dams are fixed in with a little plastic rivet here, and they also have bolts holding them in down lower. This is the air intake, and it had to be moved out of the way to access the bolts for the cross member. So having done the condenser, now we're going to move to the expansion valve, which is right here on the firewall. And this is the new expansion valve. I'll include a link for it in the video description. The AC lines coming in just have one bolt holding the flange in right here, and there are two bolts that hold the expansion valve in position on the internal lines for the evaporator. For doing this, I use a 12mm box wrench that fits right onto the head of that bolt. This is the bolt for the AC lines. There, as you can see, I have separated the AC lines, and now I can just remove the expansion valve from the firewall. These are those two bolts from the front of the expansion valve. There, it's all in with the bolts tightened down, and I've even moved the plastic cap from the old expansion valve to the new expansion valve. Just had to pop it up with a small screwdriver. Next, for the pièce de résistance, or the pièce de résistance, it's the compressor. Compressor is down there. We're going to get to it from underneath the car. Well, we're going to lift the car up first. Looking up at the compressor from under the car, I've loosened up the serpentine belt by loosening the alternator. The tensioner is built into the alternator. Now I just have to remove the AC lines. The AC compressor is held onto the block with 3 bolts. One is right here, one is right here on the bottom, and one a little bit harder to see. It's let's see if I get it in the frame. Yeah, it's right up there. So 3 bolts. These are the 3 bolts. They have a 12mm head. They're all the same length. Here is the old compressor side by side with the new compressor, still in the box, and this is a premium brand. I've been buying components from this brand for different vehicles. Been very satisfied with it. I'll put a link to this AC compressor in the video description. Here is the new compressor out of the box, and the only thing that I'm going to have to do is to take this little bracket that is held on with this Phillips head screw and move it to the new compressor, which does not include it. The other thing I do with this is what I do with every compressor, whether it's indicated as pre-filled or not. And what I do is I just spin it to see what, if anything, comes out. And absolutely nothing comes out of this one, which means that it has no lubricating oil inside it. and that means that I should add lubricating oil before installation. POG 46, I'm going to put in maybe 3 or 4 ounces, considering that I also have a new condenser. I'll try to put in as much as I can. Probably 4 or 5 ounces total is what it should take, and I might attempt to pour a little bit in to the condenser as well. The new compressor is in there, everything is all connected, and now we're at the part where we draw a vacuum on the system with the vacuum pump. And you just have to open these. And we can see the needle moving down into the vacuum very quickly. This is a good sign. And we're just gonna suck some vacuum out of the system. Then we'll hold it under vacuum. We'll shut everything off, seal it up, and then we'll repeat until no more evaporative or volatile stuff is coming out. I've recharged the AC. It's running, and this is what the temperature is reading inside the car. It's right about where we want it. And this is what my gauges are reading. Just about perfect. So I am going to call it good on this one. I'm going to put the bumper back on. I'm going to put the undercovers back on. And I'm going to ship it. Thank you for watching this video. Hope it helps you with any work you're doing on your Hyundai Elantra or any other car. And please check out our other content here with tips and tricks for fixing cars even when they're not broken.